Well, my one for both is a nomination, yeah. Apparently, file size, there was a problem, and the recording was stopped, so this won't be able to be released as a single What If movie, but I will be releasing it as a part movie. You know, the last thing being a part 1, and this thing being the part 2. So yeah, like I was talking about, basically by putting the blame on Izuku, and, freaking Jiro's the only one defending him. But he's just like, yeah, no, I really don't care what they say about me. And, the villains, Shigaraki would be pretty much a no-go, because he would have been completely obliterated. And Kurogiri would not want to mess with someone like that. So the villains don't actually really get all that far. I mean, some villains here and there, but nothing to the level of threat that was the original, training camp thing with the villains. The villains show up, but they're nowhere near as much of a threat, because morale has been completely obliterated. So yeah. After that whole thing, after the whole mess with the training camp, well, it's technically not finished because All For One, sick of this shit, he finally decides he's going to confront All Might once and for all. And All Might's out here, and he's going to do his thing. The last embers of One For All that he has in his body, you know. He's just like the last embers of One For All. I have indeed chosen a successor, so these last embers will not be the complete last embers of the hope, the justice. Basically, just so you guys know, Mirio is the wielder of One For All. Or at least he would have been, but that's something for later on in the story. And anyways, basically All For One's just like, oh, isn't that just sad? And it's just like All Might going up against, All For One, and this time it's actually a lot closer because, the embers of One For All in All Might's body are going out a lot faster, plus his injury. So things get really heated, and they both end up dying. And Izuku's just like, damn it! You guys weren't holding me back. I could have been there. And the class are just like, surely he isn't talking about us. Like, us holding him back from doing something? And Jiro's just like, he's just upset. And Izuku's like, upset, Jiro? Upset? I'm pissed off is what I am. I hate you. He would just send one last punch into All For One's cranium. He'd just be like, why? Why do people keep on dying right in front of me? And people getting hurt right in front of me. First it was 13, and now this. Now it's come to this. Damn it! Damn it all! Ugh. And Jiro would basically be the only one really comforting him with this. Because in the time that they spend chilling with each other, they've gotten to have a real connection. And so Jiro kind of knows Izuku's thinking process whenever it comes to the whole, you know, hero thing. And so, yeah. After all of that, well, there's the whole business with Overhaul. Chisaki. Chisaki, he has Eri held captive. And, he basically is the leader of the Yakuza. And so, word spreads around pretty fast. Via whenever a via/via whenever a Yakuza member tried to come out of nowhere and attack Izuku. He was still in a little, the funk. He was in a lot of the funk, I guess you could say, of just what had happened during the training camp. And so, whenever this guy came after him, Izuku was like, you know what, screw it. And he would just realize that the bullets, they weren't doing anything. The Yakuza guy would realize the bullets weren't doing anything. And, Izuku would just, boom, punch him out. And, just crush the freaking hand that had the gun in it. And he'd just be like, so, these bullets, they're very interesting design. And, he would take this up with, some people. And, they would run some tests. Some scientists would run some tests, and they'd figure out these are supposed to be quirk-destroying bullets. And that's whenever Izuku would tell them about basically what he knows about why he is the way he is and why the quirk-destroying bullets didn't work. What he is not a quirk person. He is a different kind of person. Someone who has powers, but, someone who has powers, but they aren't quirks. And people would be prying to know what exactly he is then. And, Jiro would be the only one really vying for him to have his space. Give him his space. This is obviously a touchy subject for him. And he would be like, no. If anyone here knows anything Well, anyone here besides myself knows anything about Project Shadow, then you should know what I mean. And people will just be like, Project Shadow? And they just be like, no, we don't. And Izuku's like, thought so. That's because my father, he wasn't from this version of Earth. He was from a different one. One who had more people like him. He's where I get all my powers from. My father died in order for me to become alive as the next ultimate life form. He was the first, but before him, there was a prototype known as the Bio Lizard. But that's all ancient history now. Now you have me as your ultimate life form. And everybody's just like, holy shit. Like they're into this. They wanna know, like, but Jiro's like, just give him some freaking space. But, Izuku eventually tells everything, like, spills the beans. Even about Gerald Robotnik and Maria and, like, GUN. So, yeah. They're just like, there's a whole nother different Earth where all those things happen. And then Izuku will just technically like, bring up, like, technically some of those things happened on the Space Colony arc. And then they'd be like, oh yeah, the Space Colony arc. And, Izuku's just like, well, now that that's done with, now an investigation onto who is manufacturing these and how. These quirk-destroying bullets, they're dangerous in the hands of people like the Yakuza. And, everybody would kind of agree, like, yeah, this is a bad thing. So, eventually there would be a team made, and they would go and, like, storm in, like Chisaki's, like, whole base. Like, he'd be like, how do they find me so damn fast? And, it's that whole emerald power, like, that whole emerald power gives him, like, emeraldness. So, yeah, basically, Izuku just, like, he knew. It was just the power of the emeralds telling him where to go. Basically, like, instead of, like, a GPS, you basically have, like, the power of the emeralds as your GPS. But, like, on how to find somebody. And, like, their whole thing. And so, Izuku's like, Jisaki's mine. Everyone else, I think you know what you need to do. The girl and the bullets. And, base, like, Jisaki would be like, he would have Eri, and he would actually be like, come any closer and she dies. Like, she would just, like, he would just have a knife to her throat. As his final last resort thing, like, freaking hostage. Because he's not exactly sure, like, if the quirk, destroying bullets didn't work on this guy, he's not exactly he's not exactly sure if his quirk is going to work if the quirk destroying bullets didn't work. So he goes to the last resort of hostage situation. But Izuku has enough. He's had enough of that shit. He just casts control, kicks him in the face so hard, like, this is Sparta, like, and he just like Overhaul gets kicked up so high into the air, he crashes through his ceiling and like flips like so many freaking flips. He just lands on his head whenever he falls back to the ground, and they're they're actually kind of surprised he's not dead. Like with a kick that did that, and Izuku's just like, well, I guess that's just one less smudge on my record before it even starts. And Aries just like she's just grabbing onto Izuku. It's like Eri kind of knows. Izuku, like Eri just kind of has this feeling. It's almost like the power of the emeralds is allowing them to connect in a way. And well, Eri's like she wants to stay with Izuku, and well, Izuku can't really argue with that. I mean, well, if Eri won't really accept anywhere else, Izuku's like, he wouldn't mind, like, sharing some stuff, like, he doesn't really care. And, like, this girl does seem to remind him a lot of what he was told about Maria. Except for the horn. So, Eri gets to live with you know, Izuku and his mother. Eri gets to live with them because they get the whole paper signed. Izuku said he would even do it himself if he had to. So yeah, that's how you know he's serious business face. Serious serial business face. And all about this, like, and that. And then there's the Metal Liberation Army. Well, how they get dealt with is actually very clean slate. Just Izuku would just be like, come on. I know I've been able to do this before, but it would just be like, I know I've been able to do this before. I should be able to now. And Aries like, Izuku, you aren't going to leave me, are you? And Izuku's like, uh, you'll be with my mother. You should be perfectly fine. And Aries just like, that sounds like something. And before she's even able to say anything else, Izuku would be like, I can't take you with me. You would be in too much danger. What I'm going to do is going to be extremely risky, and I could be arrested for it. But I have to do it. The people that I'm sensing, they're too dangerous. Especially their leader. If I take him out, then nobody has to worry. And Aries like, well, will you at least promise me you'll come back safe and not hurt? And Izuku's like, fine. Fine. And actually, he would just like text, like, Jiro, you mind coming around? And whenever Jiro gets there, she's just like, "Oh, because you're going to endanger yourself. That's why you wanted me to come over here." And Izuku's like, well, "My mom can't do everything to involved with Eri herself." And Jiro's like, "And I think you're beginning to forget that you can't do everything to do with villains yourself. There are going to be some things that you just can't do." And Izuku's just like, "Maybe, but not this." And before Jiro's even able to say anything, they would just be like, "Mwah!" And Jiro's like, "Uh," and then just be like, "Chaos control!" And Aries like, "Ah, I always get scared whenever he does that." And Jiro's just like, "He just kissed me on the lips. That son of a, ah, that hot son of a, whatever. Okay, Eri, just stay with me and Izuku's mother, and you should be perfectly fine." And Izuku would just be right there, and any like of the guards that would be there, he would just like take him out with like his martial arts expertise, like kung fu crazy shit. And whenever he eventually just gets there, like everyone is like knocked out, and like the last person there, it's just like Redestro, and Redestro was just like, "Why isn't anyone coming in?" He's just like pressing the button, like, "Why isn't anyone coming in?" And Izuku would be like, "That be because of me." And he would just cast control. He's like, and teleport straight in front of Redestro, just have him by the throat. And Izuku would be like, "Now is the part where you die." And he'd just be like, "Ugh." And he would just be like, karate chop, choking his throat, like, that would just be like overkill. But that would surely have broken his neck. And so Redestro would just be lying like there, like he would just Izuku would just kick him back into his little swivel seat chair, and he would just be there, and there would be a dent in the swivel seat chair, and Redestro would just his neck would be broken, and then like Izuku would just be like, "Ah, the hell with it." He would just do a sweep kick and send the swivel chair like crashing through one of the windows with Redestro on it, and he just falls like several stories down, like splat, just like kills the dude outright. And he'd just be like, "Screw being discreet. I'm the fucking ultimate life form, so I think I deserve to be chill for once today." He would just be smoothing off his gloves. He'd just be like, "I think I deserve to have a chance to let loose for one day at least." And I took out all the cameras before he could even see me enter the room, so no one should know about that. Especially seeing as this guy doesn't seem to live anywhere close to any sort of civilization. I guess it sort of does indeed not pay to. Never mind. I was going to think of something, but Just chaos control. And it's just like on the news, like guy for like Meta Liberation Army found dead. Like Redestro of the Meta Liberation Army found dead, and like every single person who worked for the Meta Liberation Army found like freaking unconscious, and so they were just all arrested. But Izuku felt that he had to personally take out their leader in case they were going to wake up. So yeah, that's why he basically just like hacked off like a freaking neck muscle, like, and like all the way to the bone, and just like, yeah, I would be scared shitless too. And so yeah, the Metal Liberation Army are taken down pretty quick, and the whole deal with Dr. Ujiko and Shigaraki. Well, Shigaraki was blown to oblivion, but Izuku feels he could do one more good deed for the world. Take out Dr. Ujiko. And you're just like, he's like right there, and he just blasts through the door to Ujiko's like whole laboratory. And Dr. Ujiko's like, well, who the hell are you? And like, you're the one who the Metal Liberation Army. I I please please. He just get out. He's gonna just get down on his knees and he'd be pissing himself. And Izuku would just be like, that's. And he would just be like, I'm not even going to bother choking you out before you die. And he would just freaking, like, spin kick him up into the air and then just chop into his brain like so hard that it would send him crashing into the ground, and blood would spurt everywhere, like blood and brains would spurt everywhere. How hard he hit his face into the ground with that karate chop. Like, Jesus Christ. And he would just set all of Dr. Ujiko's like entire thing ablaze and like throw some chemicals in and just like go booshki, like explode the entire thing, blow it up, leave no evidence. So yeah, Dr. Ujiko's gone. Freaking the entire Metal Liberation Army, including their leader Redestro, gone. And Izuku finally comes back. And he's cleaned himself off, so nobody knows about the bloodshed. Except for Izuku. But he's fine with that. He's just like, less people know, the better. So yeah. And about the whole thing with the war, well, Shigaraki really didn't get his chance to be in the sunlight, the limelight, the sunshine. And the whole Metal Liberation Army didn't get taken. They got took down, but they got took down by somebody else. And so basically, a lot of events played out a lot differently. So, yeah. Whew. Um. Well, I don't really see what else they can do. I mean, you know, get their freaking licenses for heroes, is what they would probably do. Finish the school year. Nothing really else would happen. And that is until, you know, something like Izuku remembers something. What All For One said. And then he would remember whenever he slammed into that little chrome dome of his, he found something. He found a date. And he gets the paper out of his little drawer while he's at his house. And the date is today. The current day. And there's even a time. And then there's a message below. Bon voyage. Inko Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya. And Izuku would just be like, Bon voyage. Mom! He'd just be like, we have to get out of here. And it'd just be like, he would just see like a bunch of guys with a fire, and they're like, basically, he was so deep in thought trying to analyze that note because it was like encrypted and shit. So that he kind of didn't realize something that was going on downstairs, which was a pipe bomb, a phosphorus pipe bomb. And so, like, the entire downstairs area was engulfed in flames. And he's like, wait, Jiro, Ari, like, Jiro, Eri, they're here too. And he's like, he has to find, like, everyone. He's like, not letting another person die. But sadly, even though he gets all three of them out, including himself, Jiro is able to recover, and like Izuku's just like, please, please be alive. And Ari's just like, Izuku? Izuku? And Izuku's just like, Eri, you're alive! Jiro, Eri, you're alive! And Jiro's like, wait, that was a package dropped off. And it said it was for your mother. We were all there whenever she opened it, and everything just blew up. She was the one holding the package. And that's whenever some people would give Izuku the bad news. Inko, basically, as soon as the explosion happened, she instantly was doomed to die. Because of just how bad she got it. Like, at least Eri and Jiro, ow, freaking popped a bone. Eri and Jiro were a decent distance away, but no, she was holding the freaking phosphorus pipe bomb package in her hands whenever it, set off and blew up. And, Izuku can only think of one person who would be left to actually be able to pull something like this off. Sneak this by. He's like, Hirogiri, son of a... And he's just like, Emerald, tell me. And it's just like, chaos control. He's just like, disappear. And Kirogiri would just be like, in the bar, and he'd be like, any second now, it'll be on the news. And, and Izuku's just like, yeah, you're death! And he would just jump straight in and bam, 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 bam. Just like, like, just, you could, like, freaking make a Kirogiri punch. Like, punch bowl after how many times this dude just went to town and just boom, 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 boom. Like, he didn't even give him time to, like, say anything in defense. Like, it was obliteration. Until finally, Izuku just realizes he was long dead before he was done with him. So he had just been continuously punching a dead corpse. And just kept on going and going and going. Like, just bam, bam, bam. Yeah, Izuku kind of realizes for a second that he went cray-cray. And so he's just like shaking, kind of, like trying to get control of himself. And he's just like, okay, Izuku, you have to do this for Jiro and Ari. And, he just like, chaos control. And, he goes back there, and Jiro's just like crying, and Izuku like wants to know, like, what the hell? What just happened? Why is she crying? And Ari's like, uh, on the news. What happened? This wasn't the only house. And Izuku all of a sudden automatically knows, and he's like, Kirogiri, he knew about how much you cared about me, how much I cared about you. So he did that. That's so... He's just like, I should have done it more. I should have made him suffer even more. And Jiro's just like, she's just like, no, this just means without them, Mom and Dad, I don't know where I'll go from here. I don't know. And Izuku would be like, light bulb! And he'd be like, you can be here with us. You, me, and Eri, we can be a family. Besides, it's pretty much already known to everyone in Class 1A and the entirety of UA itself that you and me are a... What did Kirishima say? A thing? And Jiro's just like, you would do that? And, you know, Izuku would just be like, what kind of hero would I be if I didn't? But there's more of a reason than just that. I find that it's true. I do love you, Jiro. I can't say it enough. I can't put into words just how much you mean to me. And so, in a way, I truly, really am glad that you weren't at your house whenever it happened. I know it's unfair to them, but I I just couldn't imagine a world without you. Look at me, being all sappy. I'm supposed to be the ultimate life form, and yet I'm getting all sappy over a girl. But you're not just any girl, you're you're the woman of my dreams. Whoever knew the ultimate life form could have a crush. And Jiro would just be like, and whoever knew that the ultimate life form's crush would accept him back. And so it's just a thing now, like it's just known that Jiro and frickin' Izuku, they are just in. And well, technically since it's just the two of them and Ari, whatever the frick pronunciation. It's well, it's just the two of them and Ari. They are actually able to sign new papers that say that, you know, Jiro will live with Izuku, and so will Eri. And Eri will live with them as them being not just any parental guardians, but kind of basically spot like her, sort of like her parents. Yeah, pretty much. So Eri is kind of like their first through anything of an attempt at like a child. And so yeah, things would happen and well, what had been said wouldn't have just been true for Izuku and Jiro. It also turns out that when All For One was acting all smug about what All Might said about the last embers of One For All, you know, he meant it for all three of them. You know, it turns up on the news, Mirio and family found dead in their house, or what's left of it. Yeah, All For One basically had Kurogiri go after all three of them. And the one that was, set for Mirio's place of residence was an auto detonation, just in case that, you know, like Kurogiri, like All For One was basically like, this is an auto detonation. This one I want you to put in, for Mirio to get, because of the fact of how dangerous like One For All is like against us villains. We need to make sure that he dies. So he made sure to send the auto detonation one to Mirio's place. Not like an activation, just like an auto activate. So it would blow up precisely whenever it needed to. And that's why it was the unavoidable fate that Mirio basically ended up dead with his family. So yeah, Jiro's parents, Mirio and his family, and Izuku's mother all dead. And so Izuku just has Jiro, his basically now they're pretty much lovers, and he has Eri. Technically, they both have Eri as their adopted daughter. And it's not long till, they've completely graduated. They go from first year to second year to third year, and then they finally graduate UA, both Izuku and Jiro. And eventually, yeah, things happen, and Jiro's like, so I'm interested. I didn't catch it the first time whenever we were supposed to name off our hero names. What was yours going to be? And Izuku's just like, Shadow. And, like, Jiro's just like, Shadow. Well then, Shadow, may I once again exclaim just how much I love you. I'll always love you, no matter what happens. And Izuku is just like, and I'll let it be known right here, right now, that I'll always love both you and Eri with all my heart, no matter what happens, because I won't let anything happen to you and Eri. And eventually, not long after, things get done and diddly doo dad, a good amount of time passes, and it's just Eri is like, Izuku? And Izuku's just like, come on, Eri, you know what you're supposed to call me. It's not exactly like I'm super duper proud of the whole name thing, but you do know. And Eri's like, oh, yeah, Dad? And Izuku's like, I don't know if that's better, but yes. Eri. And Eri's like, Mama's acting weird. And Izuku would just be like, at the first sign of that, he'd just be like, Jiro? He would be right over there and he'd be like, Jiro, is there something wrong? If there is, I need to know. And Jiro would just be like, nothing wrong. Actually, a lot right. Well, what Harry said is true. I may not exactly be having the best of days going forward for a while. And she would just hold up something, and Izuku would examine it closely and realize it's a pregnancy test. And it shows positive. And Jiro's like, and you know you're the only man in the world that I would ever. So, don't even bother asking. And, Izuku's just like, oh my god. Oh my god. I can't. I And Aries just like, "What's the matter, Dad?" I was like, "What's the matter, Dad?" And Izuku would just be like, "Ari, you're going to be a big sister." And Ari would just be like, "You mean it?" And, she would actually be excited for this, like the prospect of this. And Izuku would be like, "Yeah, I mean it." You, me, and your mother are going to have a good life. Things can only go up from here. I can just tell. Besides, no one needs another one for all user whenever they have the ultimate life form watching their backs. And Jiro's like, "I know, honey. And that's why you're so adorable." And Izuku would be like, "I'm not adorable. I'm awesome. I'm badass. I'm cool." And he's like Jiro would just be like, "I'm just joking with you. Jeez. Can't take a joke for nothing. Can't make a jerk. Your mother was right about you. You can't take a joke worth nothing." And Eri would just be like, "Me grandma Inko." And like Izuku would just be like, "Yes, Grandma Inko, indeed. Knew that about me. Sorry, babe." And Jiro's like, "I know you did not just stand there and call me babe." And Izuku would be like, "Oh my god, I am so screwed, aren't I?" And Jiro would be like, "Yeah, but not while Ari is awake. She doesn't need to hear any of the screwing I'll be doing." And Izuku's like, "Oh, that kind of screwing. You're already gonna have one kid. I don't think you need to." And Jiro would just be like, "Shh. Never mind any of that. I'm still screwing you." And Aries like, "What's screwing?" And they're just like, "Aries, no, 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 no. We don't need to get into that." And they would just all laugh together as a family. And I think with that kind of a wholesome ending, I think that is indeed where things should be left off. Yes. And that was the first part, and then the second part, the finale to this big ol' what if movie. What if Izuku was Shadow the Hedgehog? Alan Xeno's Alan Xenodalsis because the Dark Shadow Maverick is OG out of here. Your boys, like, favorite, subscribe, and leave a little comment down there in the comment section. Your your opinions are indeed appreciated. Just keep it non-toxic. up in his house. His house of the Maverick Nation. Boss. Thousands. Bye.